What's going on, everybody? Spaceballs here. Welcome back to another Skylanders video. Alright, everyone. Today I want to talk about runes, best place to farm them, main stats, what runes you should actually be farming, as in 4-star, 5-star, or 6-star. So let's get right into this one. Now, the first thing I want to touch on here is what runes you should be farming. And I've been playing for about a month, well, since the game came out. And when I was farming 4F, I was so much happier. I'm not going to lie. Getting 4-star legendary gear and upgrading it just felt so much easier and natural. A lot of my 4-star legendary gear is the exact substats and main stats that I want. And now that I moved into 5F, it has become a nightmare as far as upgrading it and getting the stats that I want, as in substats and main stats. I just feel like the drops of 5-star legendary gear are nowhere near the drops of 4-star legendary gear. Now, this might be in my head, but I've honestly farmed 5F way more than I ever farmed 4F. And as far as like upgrading the 5-star gear, I can't even keep up with the amount of gold I need to do it. Sometimes even when I'm lucky, it'll still cost me like 1 to 2 million gold just to get up to level 9. And honestly, a piece of 4-star legendary gear I'd bring to level 9 and it wouldn't even cost that. So lately I'm honestly thinking that it is better to just take your 4-star gear and max it out to level 15. And then if you need ether, just drop down to 2F and farm the ether you need to max out your 4-star legendary gear. And I'm honestly starting to think that this is going to be this way for a pay-to-win player as well, unless they're literally just going to buy gold. I mean, a pay-to-win player is going to have it a little bit better than a free-to-play player, because the pay-to-win player is going to be able to just farm adventures 24/7. But honestly, like, the other day it costed me like 2 to 3 million gold just to bring a set of gloves to level 7. Because of the fact that levels 1 through 6 don't have like a guarantee or like a higher upgrade rate. Or they have a higher upgrade rate, but you don't get like the automatic upgrade from 1 to 3. And sometimes you can get unlucky and it'll cost you just as much to bring that from 1 to 3 that it will cost you to bring it from 9 to 12. So when you're talking about 5-star gear and the amount of gold that it actually costs to upgrade it, it just becomes exhausting because you will literally farm adventures for like 2 or 3 days and not even get one piece of gear to level 12. So with that being said, I dropped back to 4F and I started farming 4-star legendary gear again. And I honestly think at this point, I'm just going to max out my 4-star legendary gear to level 15 and not even worry about 5 or 6-star gear with the current state of the game. I honestly think as a free-to-play player, this is my best choice and probably your guys' best choice as well. I mean, even if you're a pay-to-win player, this is going to get exhausting for you as well, because you're going to have to be an adventurer like every single day. You know, we're talking 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you probably still won't be able to keep up with the amount of gold that it costs to upgrade your 5-star gear. And now I can't even imagine what 6-star gear is going to be like. I have seen some videos posted of people just blowing like 10 million gold and not even getting it to level 12. So to me, that's just insane, and it's honestly not worth it for the stat difference, you know, between 4-star legendary gear and 5-star legendary gear and then 5-star to 6-star. I'm just starting to feel like it's not really worth it. Now, this is just my opinion, guys. You know, take it as you please. But honestly, I dropped back to 4F, and if I need ether, I will just go to 2F and 1-man it to farm the ether I need to upgrade my 4-star legendary gear to level 15. So now with that being said, let me show you some examples of this. And I was so excited when I started farming C5. I was like, yes, I'm finally farming C5. And honestly, I don't know why I was so excited, because it just became such a nightmare. And I'm literally just farming adventures now and nothing else, just for gold, because everything in this game costs gold. I'm really hoping that Com2uS and Activision just start listening to us, because I'm sure they can see it themselves. Everything in this game costs gold. I mean, everything on the right here, Evolve, Awakening, Super Boost, Transcending, it all costs gold. When you want to combine something, it costs gold. So the fact that runes cost gold and ether, it's just overkill at this point. So I'm hoping that they either reduce the amount of gold it costs to upgrade gear or take gold out altogether. Otherwise, you're going to see people just rage quitting this game, because this piece of gear here, for example, this set of gloves, I had 6 million gold today. I started upgrading these, and honestly, the stats aren't even that good, because like I said, the drops like aren't that great for 5-star legendary gear or even purple gear for that matter. So I started upgrading this. and I took it to level 7, but that was only because it started costing me upwards of 4 million gold. And honestly, 4 million gold for level 7 gloves that aren't even that good, it is just not worth it. For example, I could have taken this 4-star body here and brought this to 15, and it probably would cost me less, if not the same. And honestly, this has the substats that I'm looking for to an extent. Now, the resistance isn't that great, but I do have some really good 4-star legendary gear like this one here. Attack, crit rate, accuracy, and crit damage. This piece of gear is perfect, and it's honestly not going to cost me half as much as it will cost me to bring a 5-star piece of gear up to level 12. And I can't imagine bringing it from 12 to 15 at this point. It's probably going to cost like just unbelievable amounts if you're unlucky. See, you could be lucky and get it done, but if you're talking about just, doing all of your 5-star legendary gear, like let's say I wanted to upgrade these two, I would need to be sitting on like 10 million to 15 million gold to even consider it. And that's only to level 12. So I can't even imagine trying to max it out. I don't even want to imagine that, to be honest with you. Like, I've just gotten so over it in the past couple weeks that I honestly don't even want to deal with it anymore. So for me, I dropped back to 4F. I'm going to take my 4-star legendary gear. I'm going to perfect it as in like my substats, my main stats, and then I'm going to bring that to level 15 until they fix the current state of this game. And I started switching gear out, like 5-star gear here. And again, like this gear isn't even that great. Like I have 4-star legendary gear that is better than this, way better than this. And this is costing me way too much gold, and it's just exhausting me. And I mean, if you come back here, I was doing the same thing with Roll Brawler. Now, this piece of gear here is really, really good, but this isn't a common drop. I've been farming it for 2 weeks, and I only have like 2 or 3 really good pieces of 5-star legendary gear, and this is one of them. And I believe this is the other one. Yeah, this is another one that is really good. But when you start looking at the rest of it, like this is almost good. Like this purple piece here, it just wouldn't be worth it. So it would really have to have perfect substats for you to want to take a piece of 5-star legendary gear and actually level it up. And then if we look at some 4-star gear here like this is a really good piece of gear. And again, it's not going to cost me anywhere near what a 5-star piece of gear is going to cost me. So I guess what I'm trying to say here, unless the 5-star gear is like perfect, you're honestly better off just using a 4-star piece of legendary gear. I know I'm probably ranting at this point, but the thing is, like, a lot of us are like so excited to farm C5 and move up to C6. But the reality is, in the current state of the game, you really don't want to. You want to just stay in 4F. Because once you start going into C5, C6 is when you're going to start getting exhausted of the game. Because you're going to realize that no matter how much you grind, you will just never have enough gold. Because every single thing in this game is costing gold. All right, so let's leave that alone. I promise I'm going to stop ranting now. Now let's talk about gear in general. Now, as you guys know, I said in a few of my other videos, every Skylander has like a random gear set. Some of them have the same. Some of them have 2 weapons like Roll Brawler and then 2 sets of boots. Others will have 2 rings. Some will have 2 helmets. I just like to say it's random at this point. It's probably not random. They probably have like a system. But to me, it's just random and it looks random. So we're going to leave it at that. So Roll Brawler has 2 sets of boots and 2 weapons. So what I like to do when I have 2 sets of boots, especially on something I'm building as a glass cannon, I like to put defense as one of the main properties. Now, you could also put HP. I do like defense because it seems that you get HP kind of naturally. And then the defense is nice because she'll be able to take some hits, especially in like Cyclops, the Scroll Dungeon, even in PvP. It's always nice to have a little bit of base defense. Now, I wouldn't go over 2k. So let's say your Skylander has 2,000 defense. I wouldn't go over that because I think you're getting diminishing returns at that point. So I think right around that 2,000 area is perfect. And using a base main property of defense is a really good way in getting there and not having to worry about doing it in substats. And then you can focus on the attack stats like I am doing for Roll Brawler. So crit rate, crit damage, accuracy, and maybe a little HP. Now, as far as main stats go, there is no percentages except for resistance, accuracy, effect accuracy, crit damage, and crit rate. So there was only 5. And those are the only main percentages in this game. And the same thing for substats, HP, defense, and attack. They're only flat. There is no percentages as far as those 3 go. I know that's completely different than most gacha games. So that's why I want to throw this in here. So just remember, attack, HP, and defense are always going to be flat, whether it's a main stat or a substat. Now, unlike other games, this game has defense penetration and it has boost rate. Now, I want to talk about boost rate for a second, and I also want to talk about evasion rate as well. So let's talk about boost rate first. Now, I don't know if you guys ever played the first Skylanders, but in the first Skylanders, they had a thing where if you crit, you would get something called a crit heal for your healers. And if you had an attacker and you crit, you would get an extra turn. What they did here was they changed it into boosting rate. So now the only way to proc it is from boosting rate. So if boosting rate procs on your crits, then you will proc a crit heal or a crit attack, which is an extra attack. And that's what boosting rate is. It used to just be where if you crit, you got a heal. But now you actually have to proc the boosting rates along with the critical hits to actually proc the effect. I hope that makes sense. I was very confused by it too at first, but once you think about it, it starts to make sense. Now, as far as evasion goes, the more evasion rate you have in this game, you can evade attack. So if somebody attacks you, you can proc evasion, and then they won't be able to hit you. Knockdown isn't part of runes, but knockdown's another thing. You have to make sure if you're using a knockdown team and you want to knock somebody down, you have to make sure they have 0 endurance. If they don't have 0 endurance, you will not be able to knock them down. I have said this in past videos, but I want to say it here again. If you want a knockdown, which is like a stun in any other game, the only difference is the only way you can proc that knockdown is if the enemy has 0 endurance. So now when I'm running on my Road Brawler or someone like Road Brawler, so we'll say an attacker, what I am looking for is high accuracy to land her debuffs, and then just a ton of damage. So a ton of attack, a ton of crit rate, a ton of crit damage, and accuracy. So what I did here was on the boots, we went with accuracy, and then all the substats we are trying to find crit rate, crit damage, and attack. So like you're seeing here, I try to make sure at least 3 of my substats are the substats that I'm looking for. It's going to be really hard to get perfect ones like all 4 substats that you're looking for. It does happen, but it's easier said than done. So you're always going to have one of those oddballs. I don't want to say always, but you will have oddballs. It is very hard to get perfect gear. You guys must know this by now. Same thing on this one here. HP, accuracy, crit rate, crit damage. This one's actually perfect because I do want some tanky substats on my attackers. And then we have the helmet here. Accuracy, crit rate, attack, and crit damage. Again, I'm just synergizing all of my stats. And as far as the main stat goes on the boots, again, I like to put a little bit of defense on my glass cannons because that makes them not so much a glass cannon. And then they're able to take in some damage. And then Flashwing can heal them up because Flashwing is healing like every other turn. So that is how I rune my Road Brawler. And then any attacker that you're going to see, I'm going to have runed the exact same way. Now, Stink Bomb is considered a support, but I do like to rune him almost the same way I rune my Road Brawler. Except on the gloves, I went with defense because Stink Bomb has 2 sets of gloves instead of 2 sets of boots. Really the same difference. So for this set of gloves, I went with defense. I was trying to switch it over to attack with some high HP, but these gloves drained like 5-6 million of my gold. We won't talk about that anymore. And then same thing, I always like to go at least 1 effect accuracy on my debuffers to make sure they're landing their debuffs. And we have defense penetration here. Defense penetration is kind of like ignore defense. The more defense penetration you have, the more damage they're going to do. Think about it just like ignore defense. The more ignore defense you have, the more damage you're going to do. Same thing with defense penetration. And then here I went with attack because I want him to do as much damage as possible. And again, with some tanky substats. Because at the end of the day, he is labeled as support. So he won't do as much damage as your other attackers. But Stink Bomb is one of those top tier units. And he just does a ton of damage even as a support. Same thing with Stealth Elf. I'm going to rune her just like Road Brawler. Ton of attack. Except with Stealth Elf, I like to have a lot of crit rate. I like to make sure she's over that 70-80% crit rate. Because she does do massive damage. I mean, she is there for her debuffs as well. But if I can ever pull Boom Bloom, I'm actually going to rune Stealth Elf as a straight damage dealer without the accuracy. And I want to see how much damage she can actually do as a damage dealer. I just don't like the fact that she doesn't have a ring, because ring is the only thing you can get crit damage on. So sometimes the gear makes me upset because it's random, and where you want to put a crit damage ring, you can't. And Flashwing here has 2 rings. And I know she's a dragon and she doesn't have boots. Sometimes I think they did it that way. Like they kind of matched the gear to the Skylander. But I really truly just do think it's random. But again, For Flash Wing, you want to put like HP and defense, and having 2 rings, you can't do that. But if I was able to, on my supports, I would go HP and defense, evasion rates, and boosting. Those would be the main stats I'd put on my healer. The main stats I put on my attack, again, attack, crit damage, attack, and then a little bit of tanky substats to match, along with that effect accuracy. Unless you're just going for straight DPS, but early game you're going to be going for debuffs, so accuracy is going to be important. But if over time you realize you don't need the accuracy as much, then you could switch that accuracy to attack. Just remember, guys, if you're trying to land stuff, debuffs, bombs, poisons, diminishes, you will need effect accuracy to do so. So just keep that in mind when you're runing up your Skylanders. So the last thing I want to talk about is what you can get on main stats. So boots, you'll be able to get accuracy, resistance, HP, and defense. Rings, you can get accuracy, effect resistance, crit rate, and crit damage. Gloves, you can get attack, effect accuracy, effect resistance, defense, I believe HP. I haven't seen HP myself, but I believe people were saying you can get HP as well. I haven't seen a set myself. Maybe it's just bad drops on my part. I honestly don't know if you can get HP, so I'm not going to say 100%, but defense, attack, effect accuracy, effect resistance. All bodies are HP, main stat. And this is main stats that I'm talking about here, guys. Helmets are defense, and weapons are attack. So I don't want to make this video too long. I hope that kind of sums up what you guys should be looking for as far as stats and substats go, and what Cyclops stage you should actually be farming. Again, I will be dropping back down to 4, and I will be maxing out all of my 4-star legendary gear as long as the game stays in the current state that it's in. They honestly pulled back the patch. I just released my dev notes video, and right after I released it, they actually pulled the patch. So I'm hoping that they kind of realized what they're doing is not right. Not that it's not right, but it's not the time. They should be worried about fixing the game and addressing the community's concerns. So let's hope for the best as far as that goes. We have a new giveaway started. The link for that is down below. If you want to be a part of the random giveaway, all you have to do is sub to the channel, like, and comment on my past 10 videos. That is the biggest single prize we do on this channel. My Twitch and my Discord are linked down below. Every single month on Discord, we have 2 giveaways going on. As always, I love each and every single one of you. I will see you in the next one. Spaceballs out. Peace.